Hello, everybody. Welcome to Running Code, Humor in South Texas Law Enforcement. I'm your host, T-Bone. As always, with me is my partner, J-Man. J-Man, what's up?
What's up, everybody? I'm J-Man.
So today we're going to talk about gangs, J-Man. My favorite turds. Scourge of society, but they do bring an entertainment value. Would you agree?
I do agree.
You know, you were a gang officer.
I was.
And I was a gang officer.
You were.
You were a gang officer in the jail, which I think you probably got more entertainment value in the jail than I did on the streets from the gangs. Would you agree?
Yeah, because they act differently in the jail versus how they do on the street.
Tell me about that.
Well, I guess the biggest difference is that they're not going to hide it in the jail. They're just not. Unless they are in a jail where their gang numbers are non-existent or low versus if they're in their home state, city, county, or whatever. But on the street, what I've noticed, it's like there's not a lot of what they call color banging. Like they're not banging on somebody for colors, and they're not trying to draw attention to themselves, especially from a rival if they're somewhere they shouldn't be. So yeah, they're more brolic and just bold with throwing out, I'm with, insert set here, but then they're like church mice on the street.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's in the jail when I worked in there with you, they usually... I'd say 50-50 would just straight up be honest with you and tell you they were Otajon, Mexican Mafia, Blood, Crip.
Yeah.
We didn't really see Sotereños and Norteños here. Every now and then, if they're visiting family and got arrested here. But on the streets, they'll have all the tattoos. You'll catch them with a bunch of other confirmed gang members. But no, I'm not a gang member anymore. I have kids. That's my favorite one. I've heard that one every time. I'm not a banger anymore. I have kids. Because apparently, as soon as you have a kid, you're no longer a gang member. Like, that exempts you from that life. For those that don't know, that is 100% horseshit. So we've arrested gang members that have a million kids. They're still gang members. And they're a scourge. I know in this particular area, we have a high number of gangs, confirmed gangs and confirmed gang members, and they're responsible for the majority of the violent crime.
Oh, yeah.
And the shootings and the drugs.
Uh-huh.
My favorite group of gangs that I cannot stand are the Banditos.
Really?
Cannot stand the Banditos. Because they're gangbangers on motorcycles. That's all they are. That's all they are. They're gang members on motorcycles. The difference is at least they admit it. But they can't deny it when they wear that cut on the back that says Banditos.
Oh, yeah.
So I call them the Bandildos. Because I can't stand the Banditos. They got the public fooled into thinking that they're just misunderstood bikers. A couple of them are rascals. They're all shitheads. Every single Bandito is a shithead. You can't be a Bandito unless you're a shithead because they won't trust you if you're not a shithead. And that's just the realities of Banditos or Hells Angels or Outlaws or Vagos, or Mongols. They're all shitheads for a good reason. They are well entrenched in the drug trade, the gun trade, human trafficking, child pornography, vehicle theft, extortion, murder for hire, racketeering, you name it, they got their fingers in it. But they're smart enough to do good public image crap like Toys for Tots, which was started by the Hells Angels. Because Sonny Barger, who was the president of the Hells Angels, was a smart man. He said, hey, it was in the 70s when they started really getting in trouble. And I'm from California originally, so I grew up around Hells Angels. Texas, we have Banditos. They're the same crap. It's still the same shit. It's pretty much the same rules now in all of them. I mean, they almost all have identical rule sets. But the public doesn't see that. The public sees, oh my God, they love kids. They do Toys for Tots. And the reality is they're almost all violent felons. Mm-hmm. But they had the public fooled. At least with Crips and Bloods, nobody's fooled. Otajones, nobody's fooled. Mexican Mafia, nobody's fooled. But the Banditos, the Hells Angels, the Vagos, the Mongols, all those 1% outlaw motorcycle gangs still have the public fooled. And it boggles my mind that nobody sees them for what they are. I see them for what they are. They're gangbangers on motorcycles, which is actually how the Mongols started in California. They were all gang members. And then Ruben Cavazos got himself a motorcycle and said, hey, let's try this. And they all jumped on motorcycles. That's what they did. And they started recruiting from the Hispanic gangs in Southern California to become Mongols. And then they're at war with the Hells Angels for the drug, control of California for the drug trade. Because that's really what it boils down to is always the drug trade.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the same thing here, though, whether the Otajon, Mexican Mafia, Crips, Bloods, it's going to boil down to money. And drugs are the source of that money. And they're going to use guns to protect the source of that money, which is the drugs. Mm-hmm. It's a circular problem. That's why gangs, guns, and drugs, the trifecta on the streets.
Oh, yeah.
So You dealt with them, though, in the jail. I dealt with them in the jail before I came out. You deal with them out here in the streets. I deal with them out here in the streets. They're the same people. It just it might not be, they're not armed in the jail. Other than that, they're the same people. Their tattoos give them away.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it when I see that tattoo on their neck. And I'm like, oh, you stole Odahoan? Oh, no. I just love Michael Jordan. Really? So for those that don't know, one of the more common identifiers of the Odahoans is the Air Jordan symbol or the Playboy Bunny or the skyline of San Antonio is another real popular one you see. These are all identifiers. We can look at them. We know exactly what we're looking at. And oh, no, sir, no, I just love the Spurs. That's not the Spurs. That's another one. You'll see all the tattoos I just mentioned on their body, but I'm not Odahoan, sir. Okay.
So I think especially the funniest thing when dealing with them is the responses when you call them out for who they are, because that common phrase, if it walks and talks like a duck or quacks like a duck, then it's probably a duck. It's true when it comes to gang members, because you're not getting the tattoo for no reason.
No.
A particular tattoo, like one I had was, it's a guy who was from Rolling 60s neighborhood Crip. Now, most common gang throughout, I want to say the whole entire world damn near. There's popular rappers who were 60 Crips. I mean, it was started in, the Crips were started, of course, in California. Mm-hmm. Raymond Washington, mm-hmm. Tookie Williams, mm-hmm. West Side Crips, East Side Crips, like all that, like without going into the history. One of their particular things that Bloods and Crips are using to represent themselves is baseball logos and NFL logos.
But they'll be modified slightly, too, and you got to pay attention to the modification on some of them.
Some of them, yes, but typically, no. There's just the full-fledged logo. For example, Seattle Mariners. If you see an individual who has a tattoo of a Seattle Mariner logo with blue clothing, he's probably a 60 Crip.
Yeah, more than likely.
Because that's what this guy was. And he's like, I'm like, okay, where are you from originally? Oh, I'm from Los Angeles. Oh, okay. You a Mariners fan? Like, you ever lived in Seattle? Oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, name me one Seattle Mariner baseball player, the most popular one. Mm-hmm. Mine would be Ichiro Suzuki. He told me he was a baseball fan. Mm-hmm. And it was just funny to watch him sit there and just think, oh, I really can't name one, sir. I'm like, hey, man, are you just a Crip? Can you just tell me so you can stop wasting time?
Here's what I tell them.
Yes, sir.
Here's what I tell them.
Okay. I'm like,
it's not illegal to be a gang member. It's not. I said, just be honest about it. You're proud. You got the tattoos. You should be proud enough to just tell me, yeah, I'm a Crip. I'm a Blood. I'm okay, cool. It is what it is.
Well, I don't know. In California, I mean, they're called, technically, it's street terrorism. Like,
well, and it is, but honestly, it is street terrorism. These guys terrorize whole neighborhoods. They terrorize entire areas of town. They'll take over apartment complexes, and they'll take them over. Mm-hmm. And going back to the tattoos you mentioned, some of these tattoos you don't put on you unless you've earned them. Yeah, because if you did, true. Then you're going to answer for it. Oh, now, yeah. I know, like the Odahoans, if you put on one of their tattoos, they may do a quota check to see if you earned it. Mm-hmm. And if you actually make it through that little, it's basically you're getting jumped. They may let you stay. But if you are Mexican Mafia, if you're not Mexican Mafia and you put on a Mexican Mafia tattoo, you may pay for that with your life because you put that on. I've seen
the double sides of those. Well, the Mexican Mafia individual that I came across, he had what is it? It's a double-headed serpent that makes the M. Now, yeah, that is very iconic. It is very specific, but his reasoning as to why he got it was really stupid. He said that it was just, it's like a cultural thing. I'm like, well, no, I don't buy that.
It's cultural to the Mafia.
I'm like,
it's not cultural to Hispanic.
I'm like, that's not Hispanic culture, just that specifically. Yeah. You could have just got a double-headed snake tattoo and just left it just a double-headed snake, but you stylized it in an M form. With the M, yeah. Like, well, I never, ever wanted to try to be associated with them. I'm like...
But you just did. Now and forever.
I'm like, okay, sir. Yeah. But what can I help you with today? Because I can't help you with anything else. I'm sorry.
It's like the Bloods. Mm-hmm. And They'll have the red dog paw.
Oh, they just like pit bulls.
Yeah, I just like pit bulls.
They just breed
really,
pit bulls.
Really? Okay, or they have MOB on their chest or on their arm or something. Like, really? Okay. We know what that stands for, right? Like, we're not born last night. Okay? Like, especially if you've worked a jail, which is what I've always said, is that anybody who works a jail before they work the street makes a better officer. Because you learn them in there. You talk to them in there. You see what they think, how they talk, how they walk, how they act, what their tattoos mean, who they hang out with, their mannerisms, and that only can help you on the street. You identify them rapidly.
Yeah.
And I love tagging them out. And for those that don't know what tagging means, is we tag you out, we confirm you as a criminal gang member. So the definition of a gang, for those that don't know, is 3 or more people with a common identifying insignia engaged in criminal activity. You are now a gang. 3 or more people who dress the same or have the same tattoos and do criminal activity is considered a gang. Mm-hmm. So it can be as small as 3 people. It can be as large as several thousands of members, like Bloods, Crips. They may have different sets, but they're Bloods and Crips. People just see it's just Bloods and Crips, but they're sets. This set may not get along with this set, but they're both Crips. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that too. Odahones fall under Tongo, which is statewide. But you got your different chapters, so to speak, Vayuco and Houston and stupid shit like that. But they're all Tongo, but they don't get along with each other. I've seen that. So Houston, they use the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
They use that symbol.
They do.
But I doubt they can name a single player on their roster.
I don't know.
Well, maybe they could.
They could.
Maybe they could, because they've been doing really well this season. So they might actually be able to name one. I remember California, the Oakland Bloods or Crips. The Oakland Crips would use the Oakland Athletic symbol, but they turn it backwards. Mm-hmm. So, and the hat would be blue. It wouldn't be green like the Oakland Angels. The Oakland Athletics is green. They would make the hat blue and turn it backwards.
Oh yeah.
So for those regular citizens, they don't even see it. But in the criminal world, it stands out like a bright light. They can see it. They're basically telling other people that need to know what they are. Regular citizens don't need to know. They don't care about them. Mm-hmm. They want the other gang members, either rival or same gang, to know who they are.
Yeah.
And so basically it's a warning. I'm not alone. I may be standing here by myself. I'm not alone.
It's peacocking.
Yeah, it's peacocking. That's exactly what it is.
Because typically I've seen it where, of course, let's say people are going to court, right? Mm-hmm. Commonplace for gang members to run into each other. Well, gang members will peacock when there's a bunch of deputies around.
Oh,
there's a bunch of officers around. It's like all day, every day.
Oh, I've seen it.
They're going to peacock all day long. So, working in the county jail, you saw it all the time. A bunch of guys from one clique will just peacock and talk shit to people from another clique. And it's just, hey, man, okay, let's how about we not do this right now? Because we both know if you guys were walking down the hallway one-on-one, you wouldn't either say nothing to nobody.
No, you'd be dead silent.
You'd be like, yes, sir, yes, sir. I'll walk down the hallway with my hands behind my back, and I'll be facing forward. And if I need to see, you need to see my MAID, here you go, sir. There you go, bow. Mm-hmm. No, stop it. Yep. You're not going to stomp them. You're not going to hit them with your chancla. Like, just chill. Yeah. Just relax. Just relax.
Well, they're always more dangerous in a group.
Oh, yeah.
By themselves, I have found they're usually cowards. They won't say a word, but you get 3 or 4 or 5 of them together, then you might actually be in danger because they feel safety in numbers. So that's when you got to be cautious. You pull over one by themselves, usually they're polite. It's funny is how polite they are. You pull them over, you recognize them as a gang member. When you run them, they come up as a confirmed criminal gang member. But because they're by themselves, they're yes, sir, no, sir, how you doing, sir? Oh, hey, boss, which for those that don't know what boss means is actually, it's not a term of affection. It's an insult from the prison system, and backwards, it's sorry, son of a bitch. They're not saying boss because they like you. So a lot of people don't realize that. So I hate hearing the term boss. Oh, that drives me up the wall because I know what it is. But, oh, hey, boss, I'm sorry, I was speeding, whatever. And it's like, oh, you still, Oda home, mafia, whatever. And, oh, no, I've got kids now. Really? You were tagged out last week. Look at the date. It was tagged. You were tagged last week. No, I wasn't. Yeah, you were. Well, I mean, they assumed I was. Not a hard assumption looking at you. I see the Air Jordan behind your ear. I see the Playboy bunny on your neck. I see the skyline on your chest. Like, come on, dude. It is what it is. You guys want to be proud of your tattoos, but when you're caught, all of a sudden you don't know what we're talking about.
Well, there are some tattoos that guys shouldn't be proud of. So
all of them.
I remember
all the Odahoan ones.
I remember a guy took his shirt off, and he had a tattoo of a woman. And let's just call it a provocative posture, leg spread eagle.
Was it on his back?
No, it was
for his celly?
No, on his chest.
Oh, okay.
So, it's typical, it's common. So I'm just documenting tattoos because, as a as a gang investigator at the time, just documented a lot of tattoos, what I knew were gang affiliated or suspected them to be.
Yep.
I almost missed it, but she was holding the woman on his tattoo. The woman in the tattoo was holding a dildo, and the dildo had a spur on it.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, I don't know if that's disrespectful, but I would feel disrespected. If
I might.
One, and I asked him how. I never forget. I was like, "Hey man, you have to be order home." And he's like, "Well, how?" I'm like, "Your vibrator or dildo in the hand has a spur on it." Now, number one, why you have a dildo on your chest is just beyond me.
Actually, I'm kind of curious.
I don't care that if it's a woman holding a dildo. That's strange. Number one. Number two, you chose to put a spur on it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, man, it's just time to be honest now. And he felt a little embarrassed, I guess, but it was funny to me. I mean, I don't know. He wanted to put his shirt back on real quick once I pointed out. I said, you know what? Yeah, just go put your shirt on and go sit in the corner somewhere where no one can come and talk to you. Just don't bring it up. Please don't bring it up.
So a lot of these tattoos have hidden symbols inside them, like you just pointed out. That was hidden inside the tattoo. Most people wouldn't have caught it.
I like how for Vayucos or whatever, it's just two palm trees. You would just think it's two palm trees that are curved.
But it's a V.
They have a natural curve, even though I've never seen a palm tree with a natural V curve.
Yeah, it's a V for Vayuco. We know what it is.
Or volleyball.
You know, and then you got your Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Nation, Aryan Circle. They all have a lot of the same imagery. The lightning bolts, the swastika,
I had a guy tell me it wasn't lightning bolts, it was a gummy worm. It was gummy worms.
That's one jagged gummy worm.
And I don't know. I bursted out laughing. I couldn't help it. I was like, okay, sir, you're still going to be tagged out as a Peckerwood, so I don't care.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Peckerwood is like the minor leagues of the white supremacy gangs. It's like like Bush League. You work your way through the Peckerwoods, and maybe if you bang hard enough, you might make it up to Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Nation, Aryan Circle. But you're going to start at Peckerwood sometimes.
So not even
you got to show you're down.
So not even single A, you would say?
Yeah, that's like AAA. Bush League. It's not. You're nowhere near D1. So we deal with the Peckerwoods. There was this one kid. I had to take him in, and when he was changing out, he took his shirt off. I'd asked him, because I remember I asked him on the street. I said, "Are you a wood? Are you in the wood pile?" He's like, "Oh no, I don't. What is that?" But it was the most unconvincing "what is that" ever. And I was like, "Yeah." So I said, "We'll see when we get down to the jail." Made him take his shirt off, and right across his stomach is Peckerwood, and the two O's at the end of wood were lightning bolts. I was like, "Did you forget about your Peckerwood tattoo on your chest?" He looked down, he's like, "Shit." And I said, "You're so bad at this, you couldn't even make it up to Aryan Brotherhood," which actually set him off, because I was downing, I was clowning him. That's exactly what I was doing. I don't see a whole lot of down here in this area. Not a whole lot of white supremacy gangs. You see them more common up north. Especially the Panhandle, Amarillo, Waco, maybe Odessa and Midland.
Yeah,
you don't see them down in South Texas very much. This is too heavily Hispanic for them. There's no safety numbers for them down here.
Oh yeah.
But you will see them up north. But every now and then they float through our jail. We pull them over on traffic stops here, and you see the lightning bolts. You just ask them, "Are you Aryan Brotherhood? Are you Wood? Are you Aryan Brotherhood? What are you?" And if you're a white officer, they might talk to you. If you're not a white officer, they're probably not going to talk to you. But what's funny is how many times I've caught an Aryan Brotherhood member with a black girlfriend or black wife, and I just bust out laughing every time. I'm like, "You're a hypocrite."
Well, no, actually, so a lot of it is just, I've talked, a lot of the inmates or individuals I've contacted that were part of white supremacist gangs, they're not really racist. They don't believe in it.
No, they don't. It's protection.
It's just, that's all it is.
In prison, you hang with your own.
That's all it is. It's just white pride is what they call it.
It's a survival mechanism in prison. You hang with your own because there are no individuals when you get in prison. You better find somebody to click up with, or they're going to make your stay hell if they don't kill you.
Like there's one, the name is funny in itself, but it's more of a gang or a threat group in the feds, the Dirty White Boys.
Yeah, the Dirty White Boys.
I met one of them, and we sat and we chopped it up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he was he was like, outside of here, I have a black girlfriend. I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, then why? Why don't you just cover your tats? Why don't you just say you're not a dirty white boy? Like, because in here I got a program, I got a function, and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, but then when your other friends come inside the cell, you're taking down pictures of your girlfriend because, well, number one, it's shame. Like that's exactly what it is. Like, why don't you just be real? Yeah. Don't just be a solo wood, like I've heard people say.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. I'm like, you're solo? Like, you're a free agent?
Everybody's Solano all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, everybody's a Solano all of a sudden. I'm like, I see. That makes no sense.
Yeah, man.
They're idiots. Their methodology, their ideology is all dumb. When you actually start, what's funny is, and I read a great book when I was a younger officer that was a fantastic book and it really opened your eyes to the gang culture. It's called Vice. And the writer was a Compton police sergeant when he retired. And he was there. He knew Tukey Williams. He knew the founders of the Bloods and the Crips. He went to high school with them. He knew them. He knew exactly where these gangs started. And the Crips did not start as the Crips. The Bloods did not start as the Bloods. They evolved into the Bloods and the Crips. Mm-hmm. And the colors are from local high schools, Centennial High School, and I can't remember the other high school off the top of my head where the colors came from, the red and the blue.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't start in a vacuum. Gangs go back a long way.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just evolved over time. And you had your Hispanic sets, and you had your black sets, and you had your white sets, and you even have Asian sets. If you're in San Francisco or you're in L.A. with Chinatown, you're going to have Asian sets too. And where I'm from in Northern California, we also have Russian gangs, Vietnamese gangs, Greek gangs, believe it or not, we do. And they're just as brutal and violent as anyone else, but they don't have the same numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just as brutal.
Yeah.
But the numbers is what does it. So I'm not a gang officer in Los Angeles, so I couldn't talk about Crash or Rampart or, the gang units in Los Angeles Police Department. But in this area we're in, and we have over 10,000 confirmed gang members just in this county, and Los Angeles is massive. Yep. I would love to get a look at their Cal Gang database and look and see what they've got. Just look at the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got to be probably north of 500,000.
Oh, yeah. It's the birthplace.
It's got to be. It's the birthplace of it. I mean, New York has its gangs too, but L.A. seems to start all this crap, and then it floods east. And so we start getting them here in Texas, and they start moving, and they're getting them in Florida, and they're getting them in New York, and they're from California. And what we figured out over time was that they're sending, like, I call it a representative, like a traveling salesman of the gang to a new area to see, is this right for us? Maybe we can start taking over here.
Yeah.
And then they'll start recruiting other Crips, like, oh, you say you're a Crip? Well, how would you like to be part of us? Like, we're bigger. We're rolling 60s, And they'll scoop them up and make them rolling 60s Crips. And now you have a set in San Antonio, or you have a set in Corpus Christi, or a set in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And, Katrina really screwed that up here in this area. Because you had your Louisiana Crips coming to Texas, and they don't get along. Texas Crips do not like Louisiana Crips and vice versa. And so there was inner gang fighting when that happened. And it was just the weirdest thing. I thought y'all were down. Like, aren't you all Crips?
Yeah, no.
They're not. They're cousins. They don't get along.
But it's like that in California too. Just because you're a Crip doesn't mean you're going to like this person automatically because they're a Crip. Prime example of that is 8-tray gangster Crips and neighborhood Crips of any kind, from the 30s to the 100s. It's like, and the only reason they do not really, well, as far as like common knowledge is just the neighborhood Crips fall under what is called the neighborhood card, and then the 8-trays follow under what's called the gangster card. That's it. That's the main difference.
Mm-hmm.
One is gangster Crip, one is neighborhood Crip.
Now, the only time those two will come together, though, if a Blood happens to be walking down the street. Then they're probably going to come together just temporarily to whip his ass.
Well, see, that also depends, too, because they take the approach of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So it really depends.
Yeah, true.
It really, really depends. Like, it's and then I think that's like the kind of confusing part of it all is there is no single underlying unity on both sides, or even with gangs. They legitimately will make passes for each other.
Honestly,
and it doesn't make no sense to me.
Honestly, the only ones that have any kind of governing rules are your motorcycle gangs and the Mexican Mafia and the Aryan Brotherhood. That's really it. The rest of them are kind of ad hoc, throw it together. This is what we feel like this day. But the motorcycle gangs, the Mexican Mafia, and the Aryan Brotherhood have a very strict set of rules, and they will enforce them. So if I had to say organized, they're probably only really organized. The rest of them are just kind of what they feel like that day, what applies to me today.
I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're getting a dildo tattooed on you, you need some structure.
No, I absolutely agree. If you're dumb enough to put a dildo on your back or in your stomach, if you put it on your back, basically that's there for your celly when he's pile driving you from the rear. From the front, I'm not quite sure what that's for. So the gangs are just one of those unique worlds. And some of these gangs, I'll give you an example, again, using the Banditos because they're my favorite pieces of shit, is there'll be family men and working men during the day. Like, they'll tell people they're Bandito, but they'll wear regular clothes, they'll have regular jobs, and some people around don't even realize, because they don't quite have the same flashy tattoos. Their cut is pretty much their tattoo. Now, they have tattoos for each gang. They do have them, but they're not quite as in your face as Ortejon or Mexican Mafia or Blood and Crip. But they do have Bandito tattoos or Mongol tattoos or Hells Angels tattoos. They have them. But off duty, they hop on that bike. All of a sudden, they're a turd shitbag biker, and they're down for that life. Mm-hmm. And then the worst part about the Banditos or any outlaw motorcycle gang, honestly, is they rope the whole families into this. They'll start dating a woman with young children, and they'll convince her to use those young children in child pornography.
That's wow.
And or they'll have the woman trafficking drugs for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll involve everybody because they don't care, because the bottom line's money. You are property. If you are a proud old lady, PBOL, proud Bandito old lady, you're property. Your job is to do whatever he tells you to do. That's it. If he wants you to mule drugs, you're using it. If he wants you to use your kids for child nefarious reasons, you're going to. You don't get a choice. And some women are turned on by this. Like, when we watch these Bandito parties, you'll see these young girls, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, show up, dress very scantily, and just fall in love with this biker world. It's free, it's fun. And then the reality comes when they start getting passed around by every member of the gang, because that's what you're here for. That's your whole job while you're here, is to be passed around by everybody. Or they get them hooked on heroin, or they get them hooked on meth. And usually it's an opiate, heroin, to gain that compliance. Mm-hmm. You'll do what we want now because we're going to be the source of your drug. And within a couple of years, they are just strung out. Yeah. And because they got, oh my God, it's romantic. I'm on the back of this bike, and they are protected. Now, even though you're just a woman in their eyes, if anybody outside the Banditos or the Hells Angels or the Mongols or whoever messes with that woman, though, they are going to mess with everybody because she's property of them. Mm-hmm. So it's like messing with their bikes. Yeah. And if people don't know the hierarchy in motorcycle gangs, their bike is number one. That's it. Their dog is number two. Their woman is number three. Their kids are number four. That is the hierarchy of power in motorcycle outlaw gangs. The motorcycle is number one. Their dog will be two. Kids and wife will be three and four. That's it. Mm-hmm. Actually, it might even be kids then wife, honestly, because the wife can be replaced. I can find another woman that's taken in by this romantic life of a biker wife. Right. And so I've dealt with them. Now, I treat them with respect when I talk to them. I mean, there's no reason to be rude, but I'm also very cautious when I deal with them.
Oh, yeah, you got to. You got to, because, I mean, any gang member will just have a general conversation with, if they're stopped by a cop, because they want to reduce that suspicion. That's mostly what it is. And I just say that just because they don't want to get investigated in and stuff to be brought out. Yep. And just to prolong a conversation because it's not supposed to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they're not really supposed to be seen chatting with us like we're friends. Yeah. You know, because then you're going to be inviting questions from the rest of them like, hey, are you cool with that dude? Are you a snitch? Mm-hmm. So when they're in a group, they're kind of supposed to act like a tool. That way they don't get in trouble by them. Like, hey, why didn't you tell them to fuck you? Why are you so nice to him? You know, so I get it. When they're by themselves, that's usually why they're more polite, because there's nobody to show off for. Oh, yeah. So they're going to talk to you. But if they get two or three in the car, well, then they got a front. And that's just the realities. That's the realities of their world. As stupid as it is, that is the realities of their world. So, you know, they can bring moments of humor, especially when you're looking right at their tattoos. You know exactly what you're looking at.
Or nicknames.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I've seen nicknames on these guys that I don't know how they say that without shame to anybody. I'm like, are you serious?
But the funniest one, the guys at Peckerwood, his nickname was Cornbread. And it's
better than Wonder Bread, I guess.
But you think he'd be called Wonder Bread? You think he'd be called Wonder Bread?
Maybe that was already taken. maybe the leader's name is Wonder Bread, so he kind of had to go with Cornbread.
Peckerwoods will typically have a lot of wood-themed nicknames, like or I don't know, or just things that would just be commonly white. Like I remember I met a guy named Lil Wood.
Lil Wood,
and
I bet he was 6'5", 300 pounds, wasn't he?
No, he was actually short.
Oh, because usually, like, guys named Tiny, they're 6'5", weigh 300 pounds. They're ironically named Tiny.
But sometimes the irony is just spot on.
Guys, people, listeners, you can't make this shit up. The public doesn't understand this. They don't pay attention to it. They don't see it for the most part. Unless they grew up in that life where they recognize it immediately on their own, the average middle to middle upper class and upper class citizen does not pay attention to this. They don't see it. It's around them and they don't see it. Mm-hmm. We see it as cops all day long. So they sometimes forget that we know what we're talking about, and they'll pretend, or they'll think, and I guess in their head, that we're regular people, and they'll start lying to us, and we're just letting them, you're full of shit, yeah, you're full of shit, yeah. And then when you call them on it, here's every reason I know why you're such and such, this, and they're like, shit, I can't say anything now.
Like, I just never understand it. Like, it just tongos too. Like, the biggest tattoo identifiers for tongos is their respective city. And I'll just never forget the guy who told me, who had Tim Duncan, the portrait of Tim Duncan, literally tattooed on his chest. And he just said, I just love Tim Duncan. I'm a supporter of Tim Duncan. But he almost got me. I said, okay, well, look at the jersey that Tim Duncan's wearing on your chest, sir. What's the number right there?
Yeah.
It's number 15.
Yeah.
Is that Tim Duncan's number? And then the light bulb came on his head that I knew. I said, okay, do me a favor, man. Sign my paperwork.
Yeah.
Because Tim Duncan's number is not 15.
It's not 15.
You idiot.
That's a very associated number with Order Homes, the Tongo.
Disclaimer to, I don't know why an Order Home would listen to this. 15 is not your child's jersey number. It wasn't the number you got on your quiz. It wasn't
your high school football number.
It wasn't your high school football number or the number of chicken nuggets you got extra in a 10-piece.
Yep.
We know why.
We know what the number is, 13, 15. We know what these numbers mean. And again, they think we're stupid. I guess we just walked in yesterday from the academy with water pouring out of our ears and pissing water from the class still. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed today's show. And we want you to find it funny, but also educational. For the fellow law enforcement officers that I'm sure heard every word we said and probably agreed with it. You're probably shaking your head yes. The regular public is like, no, not my son. Yes, even your son. But we hope that maybe if you have a child or a family member or cousin or something that you start seeing that, maybe you can stop them. Maybe tell them what we're talking about. Maybe listen to this episode and maybe open their eyes a little bit before they step down something they can't get out of.
Yeah, very true.
So, folks, like always, we hope you enjoyed today's show. J-Man and I sure do enjoy talking with y'all. And I've got nothing else. J-Man, you got anything to add today?
Sure don't. I sure don't.
All right, everybody. Well, we're out. Hey, if you like the show, check us out on Twitter or Instagram. Both are at T-Bone and J-Man. Like, follow, subscribe, send it out to your friends, send it out to your family. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach us there and we'll give you a shout out on the show.